InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Reverend Gabrielle Fisher. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What would you prefer I call you? Reverend Gabrielle, would that be okay?
Yes, it would. Thank you.
Okay. Reverend Gabrielle is the co-director of the Center of Light, a mystical Christian spiritual school. She has 20 years of experience teaching yoga, meditation, and giving spiritual counseling and seminars. Reverend Gabrielle has a master's degree in occupational therapy and is also the director of rehabilitation at, is it Kindred Central Hospital?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how did you go from working in rehabilitation to becoming a priest?
Well, actually I was a yoga teacher first, mm-hmm. or while I was in school for rehab, and I loved how people were feeling better through their exercise, because yoga is a great exercise, and it's also just with the breathing and coordinating your breath with your movements makes people feel relaxed. So I was inspired to study rehab more, and so I became an occupational therapist aide, and but I was teaching yoga on the side. And what I realized was in the hospital, people weren't healing the same as they were in yoga. So I ended up quitting that job and teaching yoga full time. And then
Where were you teaching? Was this Chicago area?
Oh no, I was in Boston. Mm-hmm.
Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up in New Hampshire actually, and I went to school in Massachusetts.
And was there a particular style of yoga that you were teaching?
Yeah, I taught a few different styles. Kripalu yoga, which is a very popular yoga on the East Coast, and Shivananda yoga.
Familiar with them both? I've been to the Kripala Center in Massachusetts, and been to the Shivananda Center many times on Bryn Mawr.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. So I'm still not sure, when did you go from yoga to being a priest?
Yeah, okay. Well, in yoga, you know how when you're very relaxed and you feel connected inside and you feel this sense of peace?
You mean the yoke of the mind, body, spirit as one?
Exactly, the union, yes. Yeah. I loved that, and I just wanted more of that. And I noticed that I felt really great in yoga class, but then when I would go home, I didn't feel so great after that, in different parts like work and relationships. And so I started looking to other teachers to teach me more, because I wanted to go deeper into meditation. And then I found this class called Christian Mysticism, and I wasn't a Christian at the time at all, so I wasn't really interested in that part, but I was interested in what this teacher had to say. She brought me deeper into a meditation, which was something I hadn't experienced through the yoga path. And she also helped me spread that peace and that connectedness in the other areas of my life. So I couldn't deny it, that was a really good way of deepening and becoming peaceful.
Now, I've interviewed Wayne Teasdale, who's a Catholic mystic who has since passed. He had written a couple books. Can you explain to our audience what Christian mysticism is and where it came from?
Yeah. Well, I could talk about some of the popular mystics, like St. John of the Cross and St. Francis and St. Joan of Arc, and
and by the way, our audience may be Jewish, so they might not, or of some other denomination, I should say that as well. They might not know who these famous mystics are.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were just people who listened to the Spirit, really. Mystics are people who listen to the still small voice within them. So in Judaism, we have Kabbalah. In Islam, we have Sufi. In Buddhism, we have Zen. So there are people who listen to God within. And so it really doesn't matter what religion. But what's cool about it is that these people listen to God, and in their religion, the people in their own religion rejected them because they thought they were kind of a little bit crazy, and they called them heretics. And so I don't know exactly when it started, but I would say that Jesus was a mystic because he told everybody that they could listen to God inside, and that God was both their father and their mother.
Well, I know in the Middle Ages that in the Catholic Church, only the Catholic priest could have direct knowledge of God, or only the Catholic priest can directly experience God. Then what you're saying is, no, you have to know God and experience God for yourself.
That's
just the opposite.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, your church is called the Center of Light. Why does your church have that name?
That's a good question.
I mean, it's beautiful. I understand light, and I understand centered or centeredness.
Yeah. That's pretty much why, that it's not only is it a physical place where we as mystics meditate on light and allow the light to spread, and by giving light and love and peace, but it also represents the God self. Mm-hmm. So our way of being is very, it's kind of Eastern, because we actually call God the self.
Mm-hmm. Like Jesus said, the kingdom of God is inside of you.
Right, exactly.
And so, but some people differentiate the self, like, you have the self, and then there's the real self, or the self and the higher self, or the self or the true self, or the self and the original self.
Yeah.
Do you differentiate what you call that self that is God?
We do, just because we have to communicate. Mm-hmm. And we also, when we're trying to get over something, we do have to discern between whether it's coming from our wisest self or the God self, and whether it's coming from our small self or our ego. So when people can know the line, they get to choose better. And when you choose the wiser part, you grow and learn and blossom.
And so what are some of the things that you have at your Center of Light Church?
You mean some offerings, or what do we do there?
Well, right. I mean, do you meet regularly on Sunday? Do you have, midweek service? Do you have like meditation classes, etc.?
Yeah, we have all those things. A typical day is that the people who come regularly, we wake up every morning at 6, and so from 6 to 7 we have meditation and communion, and then we all go to work. And
the meditation, is it completely silent during that meditation?
This one is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we also do have classes that are guided meditations and instructional meditation classes, certainly.
Now, the meditation for that hour in the morning, do people sit? Do they lie down? What position are they in?
They sit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We, from my yoga background, there's a lot of different positions you can be in, but we really just say, just relax. Just have your body in a relaxed position so you can quiet your mind and you don't have to think about it so much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I sit and meditate, but just for 20 minutes, like in lotus position.
We do it for a half an hour, and then the other half an hour is a reading and communion. Yeah.
And so the longer people stay with your church, the deeper the meditation. And is there advantage to doing it in a group setting versus by oneself?
Definitely. There's a lot of studies that show that when people do it together and when people live in community or they participate in community, that they have a healthier, happier life, definitely. And I think people also in class, I asked them how it was, and they report that because they were together with a group, they went deeper, or it was more silent or more relaxed.
And where is your Center of Light Church?
It's on the north side, near Irving Park and Elston.
Okay. Okay. And now you're teaching a class at Infinity?
Yeah, a couple of them.
And what are your classes going to be on?
One is going to be about the Divine Feminine. It's called something like Mother Mary and the Sophia. And the other one is going to be about Hildegard von Bingen, which is going to be a PowerPoint presentation that I had put together.
And well, get back to that first class, the Mother Mia and Sophia. Why the name of that class?
I think, why is it called Mother Mary and the Sophia?
Yeah.
I think because people wanted to know more about the Divine Feminine. It's not talked about that much. And, feminine doesn't necessarily mean woman. It means the receptive part within us.
Right. Like I come from both a mother and a father, so I have the father energy mainly from my dad, my mother's energy from my mother. So
Yes.
I have feminine energy in me.
Right, exactly. But also not just from our father and our mother, but also we would say that God or the self is both positive masculine and positive feminine. That masculine being active energy and feminine being receptive energy. So within our soul, within our self, we have both things.
And we need to know how to balance the two.
Right, because we have favorites.
Yeah.
Or
we're creature of habit. We just traditionally rely on one type of energy and not the other.
Right. Yeah. And we might have a lot of concepts about what it means to be active or what it means to be receptive. And so we have preferences. Yeah. So we try to get rid of those so we can just do the pure thing.
So it would be advantageous for males to come to your class as well.
Definitely. I really hope they do, because
do many men come to that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, a lot. We're about 50-50 now. But for a while we weren't. We were a lot more women came than men. And that's true for yoga, because about 20 years ago when I started teaching yoga, it was almost all women and hardly any men. And then,
well, I would have been the one or two guys in the class.
Did you start yoga
a
while ago?
Yeah, over 25 years ago.
Oh,
Went back when there was maybe 3 different yoga studios listed in the phone book, and Shivananda was one of them.
Oh, yes. I remember that. I remember having to teach the definition of yoga and also describe to people what a yoga mat was. And, it's just fun that most people carry a yoga mat with them and everybody knows what it is.
Yeah. Well, and now it's like by my office in Chicago, there's like 6 yoga places within like 4 blocks.
Right.
So, so does your Center of Light Church offer yoga classes?
No. Not anymore. We tried it for a little while, and there wasn't enough people coming, so we stopped that. Well, actually, mostly I did family yoga.
With children? So you went back to rehabilitation. What led you back to that?
Well, then, because I taught yoga and I loved the yoga and I saw people heal it, I wanted to put it in the hospital. So I I went to get my master's degree in occupational therapy, which I thought was the best career to work on, you know, pain management and being able to use the breathing techniques and the exercises for people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And where's this hospital, Kindred Central Hospital at?
It's again, it's on the north side, but it's on Pulaski and Melrose. So
okay,
it's a small hospital. It's very it's called the Long-Term Acute Care Hospital, which an LTAC, which people who are very sick and have a lot of multi-medical problems go there. A lot of people who have to use ventilators to breathe, and it's pretty intense place.
And I'm sure your meditation practice before going to work every day helps.
It does.
And then afterwards to kind of de-stress, I'm sure.
It does, because everybody has a story, and their stories are filled with pain and suffering. And so I feel grateful that I can listen, you know, to their stories and receive them, because people have been through a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How many days a week do you, or how many hours a day do you meditate?
In the morning, and many times during lunch, and then in the evening, it's more, we do prayers in the evening, but there's, you know, I do like a retrospection of the day, you know, how did it go, and where could I have done better, or been more loving, or who could I have given more to, or, you know, just checking my conscience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So what else do you do in your daily life besides the meditation and the work?
Well, I live in community right now. I live with 10 people, and then there's other people who come from outside. So we do a lot of things.
When you say, I don't, how would you describe it? Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, we have a novice program, which is, we live like a modern day monastic life. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like being a nun, except that we go to work during the day and we come back. But our life is very devotional and filled with community things like chores. And I mean, we live in a church, so as you can imagine, it's kind of a large place, and there's a lot of things to clean and do. And
sure. I've actually stayed in like the Ganges Monastery in Michigan. And,
okay.
You know, so I kind of got a feel for what that was like, and there's always just the mundane stuff.
Yeah, but many hands make light work, so we're always doing something. And my teacher, Father Peter, he's always kind of building something. I mean, he rebuilt the whole place, and so there's a lot of things to learn. And
well, and I also know what goes on in monasteries is that the work becomes part of the meditation and the prayers.
Exactly, and also part of service, being able to work when you might not feel like it, and you might not, you know, do it with joy in your heart. And so there's a whole spiritual growth that happens from giving, because you give even though you don't want to, and then you bust through that part of you.
And now, do some of the other people live in your community also work in service of helping others?
Well, they do all different kinds of work. One is an acupuncturist, another one it works in marketing. You know, it's just it varies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And are there other Center of Light churches in Illinois, in the United States?
In the United States, yes. We have about 12 centers now. Mm-hmm.
And do they all have community living options as well?
There's about 4 centers that have a novice program where people come and live with the priest, and which is a 1-year commitment, and you get to do that kind of schedule with the priests, and you're working very closely. So it's like it's a training program, really. Mm-hmm.
And so did you do that before you embarked on your own church?
I did, yes. And getting back to your original question, like how did I get there? Well, when I took this Christian mysticism class, I loved it so much, and the woman who was teaching it, my teacher, who's still my teacher now, opened up the first novice program, and I was one of the first novices, and I've never left, really. I was 28, and now I'm 41, and I've been there ever since. Not in that same building, of course, but living like that. Now, and so now I'm one of the priests. Now,
does your family of origin, have they been supportive of you? Because you're not following the traditional path.
Right. Yeah, I happen to have been lucky. They do support me. Because I have a new life, I don't see them very much, and so I think that part was hard for them. But they definitely understand.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And not everybody has parents like that, that's for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever meditated with any of your parents or siblings?
Oh, yes. When I was a yoga teacher, I tried to yoga-size everybody. And then,
All right. And so how is Christian mysticism different than the other denominations in spiritual practices? Is there any difference?
Yeah. I think that the biggest difference is that mystics value their own personal experience. What are you experiencing inside? And so if somebody tells you a rule or somebody reads you a doctrine, we kind of check it out with our inner self, our consciousness, and say, does that ring true for me? Is that what is true about that, or what is not true about that? And so it becomes a living experience versus a memorized rule.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if it's a living experience, every experience is unique.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're actually helping people to enjoy the moment or live the moment in the here and now.
That's right.
Yeah, and then, but what about similarities with other denominations and religious practices?
Yes, I think that one of the similarities in most all religions is light. That I was contemplating this over the holidays because, with Hanukkah they have lighted candles.
The festival, it's called the Festival of Light.
There you go, yes. Yeah. And with Christmas, we decorate the tree with lights, and people worship the sun as light. And
Catholic Church, you light the candles.
Yes, exactly. And so, light is happy.
Well, actually, in the Jewish tradition, they light candles for Sabbath, but they also light candles on Yortzeit, the anniversary of a loved one's death. So there is some sadness, but it's, well, not necessarily, it's a remembrance, a respect for the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see this light as the theme in all religions?
I do. And people could say it's the light of God, or the light of wisdom, or the light of the self, the thing that is what brings us peace and wisdom.
And also we use the term, we're feeling light as in a healthy way.
That's right.
That our mood, our energy is about as good as it gets.
Right.
And also people talk about when they're going near-death experiences, having experienced the light.
That's right, they do.
And so what about life after death? Does your Christian mysticism believe in life after death and reincarnation?
Definitely. Yeah. We see it as a way to remember, to learn from our experiences. So we believe that we came in as a soul and we've lived before, and we can learn from the experiences of this lifetime, but also sometimes people get kind of stuck on a behavior, and they just have this sense that it's been with them so long that it's really hard for them to let it go. And in that case, we might go in and ask them to meditate on, where did that come from? You know, if you can't find the source now, you might be able to tap into something that's been going on before.
And do members of your church or clergy perform past life regressions?
We do. We don't do it randomly. We usually do it only for the priests and the deacons. You know, if again, people have enough problems with this life, you know, that delving into all the other lives is kind of complicated. And so we try to encourage people to heal from this life. And if something is stuck, then we might have them go into a past life regression and just feel that. And usually, you know, the past life regressions are not, they're not glamorous. They're usually, you're seeing something about a pattern that you've had for a really long time that you've been gripping on for quite some time.
Well, in my experience, people also bring in skills and talents and abilities from their previous lives to this life. So not only people carry over bad patterns, but they carry over good things and good patterns.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So, how about astrology? Your church use astrology in it?
Mm-hmm. Again, we use it as a way of understanding people. If you understand people and the way they think and the way they behave or what choices they make, you can accept them more fully. And so that's why we find astrology pretty useful.
And now, do you look at astrology daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or only when there's a problem?
Well, it's not only when there's a problem, but, you know, sometimes we have jokes about it. You know,
yeah.
Sometimes when people are, if someone is a Virgo, sometimes they like to be very neat and clean, and we might say, like, you know, you're being like a Virgo, or, you know, we might make a little joke about them. But also to point it out, like, you don't need to do that, or you could do it this way, or something like that.
Yeah, and do you, the astrology, do you do your own astrology, or do you just use someone else's?
Oh, well, actually, Father Peter has a program where it's sort of, you know, you put your calculations in and it comes out, and so we definitely use a program to get people's charts. And if we had to, I know that some people do know how to make the chart.
Okay, I think we're about out of time. So for more information about Reverend Gabrielle, the Inner Quest talk show, Infinity Foundation, or the Reverend's workshop, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.